Now we have more details about the massive college cheating scandal that has been dubbed Operation Varsity Blues. So that's fun. But also, inside this report is a lot of lot of things that'll make people very, very furious. Now that federal prosecutors have charged 50 people and what has been called the largest college admissions scam in history that the Department of Justice has ever uncovered. Among them, actresses Lori Loughlin, Felicity Huffman, as well as dozens of other wealthy wealthy parents, multiple ACT, SAT administrators, 9 athletic coaches, and several others. We're finding out just how they were able to actually do that. Now, the man at the center of this is William Singer. Now, William Singer is the founder of the college preparatory business called Edge College Career Network. Now, Singer is a guy who both masterminded and undermined and eventually revealed this entire thing. Now, parents had paid Mr. Singer a total of about $25 million from 2011 until February of 2019 to bribe coaches and university administrators to designate their children as recruited athletes, which effectively ensured their admission according to the indictment from the New York Times. The New York Times has reported this indictment. Now, an unsealed affidavit shows many of the other ways that parents were able to game the system and allow their children to get into these schools without actually have earned their place. Now, one of the first ways is, and this is probably the grossest, by the way, parents were instructed to lie and about their kids having learning disabilities. So, now the person referred to in the affidavit as cooperating witness 1 allegedly told parents to secure extra time for their kids to take standardized college entrance exams by falsely claiming that their children had learning disabilities and to obtain the needed medical documentation to do so. So, learning disabilities. So once they were able to do that and claim that, the students would be given accommodations to take the test in an individualized setting, sometimes over several days, and with a proctor. CW1 also told the parents to have their kids take the required entrance exams at one of 2 locations that he had controlled, and where administrators could be bribed. And I guess that's what they mean by control. Now, I want to tell you some of the quotes here. These are devastating. Okay. So, CW1, he said, so here's what we need to do. And I think I mentioned this to your wife. We may need to get your daughter tested for a learning difference. And let's say it's my person that does it, or whoever you want to do it. I need that person to get her 100% extended time over multiple days. So what that means is we'll have to show that there's some discrepancies in her learning, which there's got to be anyways. And if she gets 100, Gordon, then I own 2 schools. I can have her test at one of my schools, and I can guarantee her a score. But it gets worse. Didn't think that was bad enough. The report also has CW1 telling one parent to tell his kid to, quote, be stupid. Quote, I also need to tell your daughter when she gets tested to be stupid, not as smart as she is. They said the goal is to be slow, to be not as bright, all that, so we show discrepancies. Gross. Super gross. Imagine the kids that actually have real disabilities that were now passed over in favor of these wealthy, entitled kids for acting as if they had learning disabilities. It's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. Now, there's more, of course. Cheating, right? Actually cheating on tests by having people stand in. Stand-ins were paid to take the exams for the students. Administrators were bribed. Somebody would help students take tests, give them answers, or a proctor would correct their answers after the students had taken it. Parents paid between $15,000 and $75,000 for these quote-unquote services. Along these same lines, parents also paid to forge their students' handwriting for the essay portion of the exam. According to court filings, Jane Buckingham, the owner of a marketing firm in LA, paid Singer $50,000 for a stand-in to take the ACT in her son's place. She sent an email with a photograph of her son's handwriting with the note, "Good luck with this." You also had coaches that were being bribed. I mentioned that before. Coaches were bribed to, of course, allow these students in for athletic reasons that, weren't real, that were fraudulent. These kids were not athletes. And so one example of this is Lori Loughlin and her fashion designer husband, Massimo Giannulli. They're accused of paying $500,000 to CW1 in order to have their daughters admitted to USC as crew recruits. Neither of them had any prior involvement or experience in crew. Again, think about family of modest means, right? Or just people barely in the middle class or working class. But you have a talent at sports, right? Imagine you lose your spot because of a rich kid and her rich parents bribe their way in. You know what this is? This is affirmative action, but for white people. And I wonder why right-wingers are suddenly silent. Why someone like Don Jr. suddenly super silent about this. Weird. Now, they also made up athletic achievements, of course. Instance, CW1 sent an email to a wealthy vineyard owner with his daughter's high school transcripts, falsified SAT scores, and a robust athletic profile, which claimed that she was a 3-year varsity letter winner in water polo, as well as Team MVP 2017. But she was none of those things. Included in the email was a doctored image of the daughter's face edited onto the picture of a real water polo player. They literally photoshopped. That's just one example. Another one, CW1 manufactured a football background for a student to increase their chances of getting into USC. The problem with that? The kid's high school didn't even have a football team. Yeah, right. Now, there are other instances. One about soccer. There was a person, a student who did not play soccer, that was recruited for Yale's women's soccer team. So Singer had instructed somebody to create a soccer profile for the girl who will be a midfielder and attending Yale, so she has to be very good. In her application, she was described as a star player and a co-captain of the prestigious club soccer team in California. Now, okay, so I have an extreme example, too, of this, of the lengths they went through. CW1 had actually altered a student's height. A basketball profile was created for a student trying to get into USC, and though he was only 5'5", and I feel for him, his athletic profile listed him as 6'1". They changed the height. So now, look, you might be thinking, wait a minute. So all these students with falsified athletic profiles, look, I guess you can, mess with grades or whatever in school and just bribe your way in, right? Without actually having to be smart. But if they allow students in there that say that have athletic activity, well, then don't they have to prove that? Well, I guess in this case, and in many cases, no. Because if they did, that would obviously prove that they're lying if they suck at basketball or water polo or whatever. So they had a plan on that. In order to explain why these athletic recruits could not play, in one instance, CW1 told a parent that the athletic director at USC, whom he had allegedly bribed, told staffers that the student, quote, had an injury and that it happened over the summer and that she would be out and unable to play for at least 6 to 8 months. Well then, I mean, that is frustrating and infuriating that this is happening. Again, think of the academics and athletes who were shut out because some rich person bribed their way in. And sadly, it's kind of how life works. Rich and powerful people will always have an advantage and will always use it to take things that they don't deserve. But there's more. Now, look, as gross as the disabilities thing is, and that's like number one on worst, this actually takes the second spot. Fake charities. According to the report, up to hundreds of thousands of dollars earmarked for undeserved kids were funneled through Singer's company, and then filtered through his organization to the universities where the students had been accepted. The charitable designations allowed some to claim the donations on their taxes. So they set up fake charities in order to funnel money for bribes. The donations did not go to undeserved kids, or underserved kids, I should say. But again, used as a funnel for illegal bribes. I mean, and then as a final slap to the face, rich people who bribe these or who bribe these officials, I almost said politicians because it's so common, they can end up just writing this bribe off in their taxes. Oh no, I gave to a charity for underserved kids. It's the epitome of entitlement, man. And that's what this is too. I mean, think about it. It screams entitlement. No, you don't understand. My kids are entitled to going to this prestigious school. So now we're going to rig the rules because I don't think my kid's smart enough or accomplished enough to be able to get in on their own. So I'm going to rig the rules and I'm going to get them into these colleges. And in so doing, they stole a spot from somebody who might actually deserve it. Now, Republicans love to hate on affirmative action for black people. But yet for some reason, they seem to be super silent on this one when it comes to affluent white people. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.